Welcome back to Ford Friday. We're going to continue working on our 1965 Mustang rebuild project. And this could possibly be the second to last video you ever see on this car. That's completely up to you guys. Now there always will be one last video to show you what happens to the car and give you some closure. Whether it's loading it in my dump trailer and hauling it out to the scrapyard, or driving around giving the big middle finger to all the haters that said it would never happen. Either way, you'll find out what happens to it. But what happens in between is completely up to you guys. So, now we gotta answer the question. What was in the box from last time from ClassicBodyParts.com? Well, let's go find out. And if you need any parts in a mystery box to help you with your build, links in the description. Let's see what's in there. Typical dull razor blade. The pizza girl's here, and if you guessed without a pizza, you'd be right. We're going to start pulling our stuff out of the box. First item is our left fender. Second is our right fender. Our old fenders are usable, but these new fenders are so cheap it makes no sense to waste any time repairing them. Now we have some quarter panels. Same problem. I believe these quarter panels were less than $100. You can pretty much buy an entire 65 Mustang from a catalog. Just put it together. Or you can buy ones completely assembled. We have our rear body panel, since our other one was made out of Bondo. And our most important piece, the one we're actually going to need pretty soon, that's our inner rocker. So we have a gnome now to drill out the spot welds, because I think I've drilled enough out of this car. So he's going to drill his 1/8" holes. Then he's going to go back over it with our 5/16 drill. These welds are a little bigger than the 5/16 holes we're drilling, so we're going to grind the rest of them out. But I do want to leave the 5/16 holes in there, because that's what I'm going to use to weld through these panels and into our frame rail piece that we're going to put in later. It's basically going to attach the 1965 to the 2015. He's learning that drilling welds isn't so much fun, so he handed the drill over to me to finish it up. He went back to his tree. So now we're going to put the rear portion of our frame rail in our 15. The old one was much larger than we needed, so we just got a new piece of metal and we're going to cut it to fit. But in order to make it fit, we need to cut the rest of the frame rails that were left over down the side. So we're going to cut out a little triangle in this frame rail, and we're going to fold it in so that it's flat. Knock the little piece out. We didn't cut all the way through because I didn't want to cut into the frame rail. So we'll just slide our new piece in behind the original Ford frame rail. Line it up where we're going to put it. And we're going to mark it. Now we're going to cut off the excess. This side we cut on an angle. We're going to do the other side a little different. I don't know why. It's just an update, I guess. Oh yeah, safety experts be warned, you're going to have a rough day today. No gloves. I think I'm wearing hearing protection and eye protection, but still no gloves. The grinder of death. We'll hammer over our frame rail after we took that little triangle out. It'll sit flush now. And now that our frame rail is hammered over, we can tack it in there to that centerpiece. There's a hole on the bottom that we're welding up, so you can't just weld continuously or it'll just burn a bigger hole. So we let it cool a little bit, keep welding little spots until it's all tacked in there. Now we can put our new frame rail in there. Line it up where we want it to go. Clamp it up. Fine tuning. Clamp it up all the way around. And now we're going to drill some holes so that next time we put it in, we just line up our holes. These will also be the holes we end up welding. Drill a pilot hole for the bolt hole at the bottom. And we're going to drill a couple of holes in the back. We're going to put some self-tapping screws in there so we'll be able to line it up anytime we want. Now we're going over to the passenger side. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut that little notch out of our frame rail. Knock that little piece out of there. Hammer it over. This side, you have a little better view of exactly what I'm doing. Just take our time, hammer it little by little. Once it's flush, and tack it up. I did put a clamp on there just to tack up the first weld. Make sure it was nice and tight. But I had to take it off to finish welding the rest of it because the clamp was in my way. But after that, the weld was there to hold it in place. We'll grind our welds flat. At least on the outside, or we're going to put the panel over it. I don't care about the inside. So the gnome was roaming around the shop, so to give him something to do, we're going to have him take this cowl panel apart from our 1965. I'm going to pull the wiper arms out, or at least the little stubs. We have our lock ring pliers. They're adjustable. They make a tool for it, but this one works, so it's the tool now. He's taking off the gasket, which is all crumbled. It's just some Phillips screws in it. Now we can flip it over, and you can grind off the rest of the welds. He didn't like drilling them. Let's see if he likes grinding them any better. Now this panel has louvers up on the top, and those holes in the bottom, well, that's where your 1965 air conditioning comes in. On the bottom of those holes, there's little valves that you open and lets the air in. So because we're actually going to have 2015 air conditioning in our car, we don't need these vents anymore. So all this extra space that's taken up by that duct assembly, basically, we need to get rid of. But we do need the outside panel to match up with our fenders and our hood. Once this piece is out of the way, we'll be able to move our body down a little bit lower. And we're going to need this to get it lined up when we drop our body on. That's why we're getting it ready now. So the gnome needed a little grinding training, so we're going to show him how to do it. It's taking him a little too long. I was afraid I was going to get very thin metal. So now we can take out our wiper transmission. This is the other end of those little stubs that we're sticking through. They're just held in with some bolts. 3/8, I believe. Of course, I think I was using a 10mm because I don't follow the rules very well. So we gotta grind the welds on the edge. They're pretty bad. These cars are known for rotting out on the seams under there. So we'll grind out what metal we think might be a weld, and separate it. We're going to end up not using most of it anyway, but I still want to save as much as we can without destroying it, until we're absolutely positive we're not going to need it. Now we're going to go over here and troll the safety experts a little more. Yep, that's right. No gloves. It's amazing I'm still alive, huh, safety experts? Or at least that I still have all my fingers. So the other side we cut on an angle. This side we're just going to cut a little notch out of it. Not sure why I chose to do it differently, but I'm not remaking the other side. And I did like this style better. So we got our piece in there. We're going to drill our pilot holes. So we'll be able to put it back and have something to weld to when we're ready. And unclamp it. Now we're going to drill the one hole at the bottom a little bigger. No, I wasn't drilling into the vice grips. I was just keeping it off the ground so the drill didn't go into the concrete. So that one hole I drilled on the bottom, that's where that bolt's going to go through. So now I can start that and line it up. I can try anyway. We can run our self-tappers in to our frame rail where we bent it over. And the gnome's done grinding. So now we'll separate our cowl panel. Since we had drilled these holes out and then basically ground the rest of the bottom out, comes out pretty easy. Not to mention, this metal's pretty thin. We'll just work our way all the way around. There's always one. Doesn't want to cooperate. So it looks like we're done. Nope. There's that one that doesn't want to cooperate. It's in our pile of rusted metal over here, so we're just going to tear it off. And that piece goes in the pile. The piece that's on the stand. It's actually the only piece we actually need. So we have our new frame rail in here. Unfortunately, because it replaces the old frame rail, we run into the same problem. We need to cut this out because this is where the cylinder for the top goes and it needs to sit down. This is higher than the original floor. I still want to tie it all together, but we need to notch it out so that the cylinder can fit down in there. This was just a rough cut. We're going to clean this up. We're going to box it out. We're going to tie it into this and extend it out to the outside of the frame rail. So this will all be tied together and welded. It'll give a lot of strength to the top of the rail, tie it to the bottom of the rail, and tie it all together. So we need to pull our inner rail piece off of here. Just pull that screw out of there. We'll set the forward rail on the ground. Pull our self-tapper out. Now we get the grinder of death out. We'll cut our pieces out. Nice little piece out of there. Now we'll cut the piece for the back side, or the inside. Somebody got a new saw. The old one was kind of sloppy, didn't cut perfectly straight. Well, we'll cut our first piece off. Yeah, I measured right. Amazing. But because that's sloped, we need to notch the bottom out. Want to cut it on an angle, drop it down. We don't want it sticking through any more than we have to, so we're going to cut it so it's flush with the top. Oh, I measured right. I'll be able to weld it across the top, weld it across the bottom. I'll tie that together. Now I'm going to put my side pieces on that come out. It'll go through our panel on the side. We're going to have to notch it out around here. I'll be able to weld around all of that. This will tie into the outside of the frame rail, so it'll be a support. And it'll be a little pocket. I'll drill a hole in the bottom so that if any water gets in there, it can drain right out. Because this is open down here. The original 2015, the frame rail is not sealed up, so. Now we're going to cut the front and back pieces. Even though I had that fancy new saw, I decided to use the grinder of death. Not sure why. Actually, I did it because the piece wasn't long enough to clamp into the saw. So rather than wasting metal, I just cut it by hand. So now we're going to shorten it so it won't stick up above the floor. And then we'll cut the other piece. We had a fresh piece of steel, so it was long enough to fit in the fancy saw. So this is how I decided to cut those. Set it in there, scribe a little line on it. It's easier than actually measuring. Extend our line all the way across. And cut it off. I could measure it too, but this way works for me. Now we can slide our pieces in there. Hey, they fit. Now we need to cut our notch in our inner frame rail. We just set it up there, marked where it was, and boxed it out. Now we can put it all back together and see how it fits. Put our bolt in the bottom. We don't need the Ford frame rail in here for this. We're just test fitting it. We'll clamp it up. And set our pieces in there. And that's what it looks like. So now we can weld it all up in a minute. Let's go do the one on the other side. Pull our Ford frame rail out. Pull our homemade frame rail out. I'll cut our notch out again. On this side I decided to outline with tape. Not sure why. Thought it'd be a better method. Doesn't this guy have any gloves? That front cut, there's a panel underneath. I basically cut right at the edge of that panel. It was a nice straight line. Made sense to cut it there. and it was right about where I needed it to be anyway. The rear, I just went, I believe it was 5.5 inches back. It was just enough that it would clear the cylinder when it goes down. That cylinder moves back and forth when it operates. So it actually starts at the front of that hole and moves towards the back as the top opens and closes. So it actually takes up the whole space, even though when it's up or down, it's not always in the center. Now that it's notched out, we cut our little pieces to box it out. Use that fancy new saw. And we'll cut the top off the piece to fit in there on our angle. We'll trim our two front and back pieces. I did figure out that if you stand it up, it cuts a little easier. Saw goes through much faster. Even though it doesn't look any faster on video, trust me, it was. The old saw, I couldn't do that because the fence was way too destroyed. This saw works just fine. I was afraid it wouldn't cut straight, but it does. So now we can trim the top off of our pieces. This one I actually just measured and then marked it. I've cut it 3 times and it's still too short. Now we'll cut the other one. I hope you guys are wearing your safety glasses. Sparks are coming right for you. As if you're not wearing your safety glasses, don't bother me about it. And yes, I do imagine that all the safety experts are watching this video with gloves, hearing protection, and eye protection. Can't be too careful. So now we'll mark the inner rail piece where our little box is going to go through. I did tack the box together just to see how it fit in there. I'm going to tack the inside of it where I'm not going to be able to get to it later. Then it'll sit in there in a little C shape. Then I can weld the inside because I'll be able to get that from the outside. So it'll be welded on both sides, a little extra strength. Mark the bottom along the frame rail. And now we can cut our notch out of there. The little grinder's getting a workout today. Cut the bottom, now we can cut the side. Come on. There you go. In the pile. So we'll slide our piece in there, screw it in, and we'll drop our little C in there. Hey, it fits. What do you know? So we're going to finish welding up the backside. Might as well get it done. And these pieces will be ready to drop in there. Flip it over. Still no gloves. Luckily, if I burn myself, I can't feel it anymore, so we're good. If it doesn't hurt, it must be fine. You can weld the other side. We just had to weld the two edges because we had already welded in the center. Now we'll do a piece for the passenger side of the car. We'll do the two corners because we have a little magnet in there holding our piece together. We'll pull the piece out of there, and that's our little magnet. It's got a little dial on there, turns it on and off so it doesn't stick to anything until you want it to. Turn it back on, and it holds everything together. It's really convenient when you're working with little pieces like this. If you're looking for one, they're available in my Amazon store. Go check it out. They're kind of handy. They also have the standard triangles that are on all the time. Those do get annoying. They like to fight you. They want to stick when you don't want them to stick. So if you weren't exactly following what I was talking about with the cylinders for the top, this is what it looks like. It drops down past where the old floor used to be. I did put the body back on just to see how everything fit and to show you guys. I didn't think you needed to see the body going on. I think we've seen that enough. I know I've done it enough, so we'll skip that part. Our new inner rocker came with the welded in spot for the seat belt, but we're going to put our seat belts in a different place. So to save some weight, we're going to grind that out of there. I added enough metal to save a little weight where we can. So there's just some welds across the top and the bottom of this little piece that's in there. It's basically just a piece of steel, a 1/4-inch steel with a hole drilled and tapped in the center of it. So we're just going to grind the welds out of it. It's not just to save weight, it's also because with that piece in there, that's a place for it to start rusting. Dirt and anything else to collect in there. So if we grind it off and it's nice and smooth, we have a better chance of it not rotting out. But it is a Ford, so I guess it's going to happen anyway. Come on, guys. You didn't think I could make it through a whole video without making fun of Ford at least once. So we ground most of the welds out. We got enough that we can get our scraper under one side. So we'll pry it up, hammer it down, pry it up, hammer it down. We'll do that a few times until we break the weld on the other side. Toss that piece in the pile. Then we can just grind out the welds that are left. Just use a die grinder to knock them down. Then we'll hit it later with the angle grinder, flatten everything out. And we'll throw some primer over it, and it's like it never happened. So that's all I have time for today. Next time I come back down here, I'm going to go ahead and get this inner rocker welded into our body. I'm going to cut out everything else I need to for our roll bar mounts, and I will fit the body one last time after I tack up everything. If it fits, I'll weld it all in permanently, and hopefully the next time the body goes on, it's not coming back off. We'll see. I said that 30 body drops ago. So now for the bad news, if you like your Ford Friday content, or the good news, if you're sick of this car and you never want to see it again. Now, I've said this before, but some people didn't hear me. So here goes one more time. I am a rebuilder, I am not a YouTuber, okay? So my money comes from the sale of my rebuilt vehicles. It doesn't come from the videos. So to put my time and money into a car that I don't plan on selling, instead of putting my time and money into cars that I'm rebuilding for profit, makes zero financial sense. I hope that kind of clears up why you don't see the Mustang all the time. Now, there are two ways that this car can become profitable. One, I sell it, which is really not the option I was hoping for. I kind of wanted to drive it, but I'm not attached to it, so it can go away, just like everything else. The other way is I start using YouTube to pay for this build. Now, in order for this build to become more profitable than my other rebuilds, the video views on the Mustang from here on out have to get to 250,000. Or it's not worth my time to work on these. It's worth my time to work on the boring cars. So, if you want to see more Mustang content, it's up to you guys to share the video, tell your friends, watch it a bunch of times, whatever you got to do. Otherwise, you just have to wait until I'm ready to work on it. which who knows when that's going to be. I mean, as much as I want to get it done, I like making money more. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Maybe with the Mustang, but probably with something else. Something boring.